Hi, this is JJ from Paranormal Talks, paranormaltalks.com, returning with the third video on the evolving and maturing Second American Civil War. Civil wars are started and they are caused by tyrannical governments. If there's anything that history proves to us, is that governments are really good at killing their own citizens. We have that in very recent history and very ancient history. That's what governments are also very good at. So tyranny causes civil wars, and it's based on money, usually money, and then food and resources, but particularly money. But each video that I do, I'm showing you a theme that is running through this lead up, this heat up to the American Civil War, and that is tracking, controlling every single individual in society, controlling them, where they go, what they do, what they say, what they think. And that's being done very successfully right now in China, and it's being done on the Chinese citizens' smartphones. They pay for their smartphones, and that is their tracking device. That is their chip. That is their chip, and they get to pay for it. The government doesn't even have to pay for it. Isn't that brilliant? Let me show you the big picture of where we are, because we are in three major astrological cycles that are impacting us globally. And the more psychologically you are prepared in knowing where you are and what's coming up, the better you are to manage your emotions and your psychology as things heat up even more and more. Being flexible in your mind with the events that are happening helps you to come through this very successfully, because you never want a serious crisis to go to waste. So if you're not flexible, if you're rigid, you don't like change, you break. And that's where we're hearing about suicides and other psychological collapses amongst the population. Let me show you the big picture from the Socrates computer system after we look at the cheat sheet. Here we go. Let's scroll up here. I pull from predictive models, predictive methodologies that are very ancient and have very excellent track records. So when I say track records, that's track records of 80 to 100% accuracy. So for this third video, I continue to talk about astrology that has an 80% accuracy rate, and the quantum computer system Socrates that has a 90 to 100% accuracy rate. The quantum computer system was developed by Martin Armstrong of Armstrong Economics. So this is what we're going through. You can read this cheat sheet on your own, but I wanted to show you these three cycles, 1, 2, and 3. The one this video is about the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in the constellation sign Capricorn, and that means a second American Civil War. The last time these planets were together, sitting together, holding hands in the sky, was in 1861. 1861. That was the beginning of the American Civil War in America. It was also the secession of West Virginia from the state of Virginia, and that's in play right now. That started January of 2020. So you can read through those. I've done other videos about these, but this is all to help create a new financial system. And this is the cheat sheet with the dates. Here are the dates, and fast forward to January 2020. Astrology is this date, and the Socrates quantum computer system is this date. Very accurate. Okay. Let's look at other stuff. The big picture. The big picture is here. This is from Martin Armstrong of Armstrong Economics. Now, this is an economic model. It's not a business model. It's not a political model. It's not a geotectonic model. He has all those models that the quantum computer generates, but a lot of this this turmoil we're in now, the virus, it is financial. It is a global financial reset globally. So this is where we are. You can see each one of these patterns. I'm going to move this here. There's a private pattern, a public pattern, private, public, private, public. Public is government, big time government. Private is more commercial individuals, living their lives. You can see each one of these patterns consists of 6 cycles: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the last cycle finished up in 1981. If you look at history economically in this country, America, in 1981, we had quite a meltdown financially in the stock market and in business, huge layoffs, a lot of collapsing companies. And then we started a new cycle, and that will finish up in the year 2032. Right now, we are right down here in this little divot. You see this divot? And you see that number 2020? We started here in January of 2020, and that cycle finishes up in 2024. Now you see, every time the direction of this line changes, that's called a phase transition. It goes up, changes direction, it goes down, changes direction, goes up. Every time there is a phase transition, it is a crisis period. A seed is planted, and that cycle and those events mature through until the next phase transition, which happens in 2024, and then we finally blow out of it in 2032. 2032 is supposed to be the year where we officially begin the breakup of the United States as we know it. Okay, now let's show you some websites of this continuing thread of our governments wanting to chip us. They can use an injection with a vaccine. They can force us to download an integrated tracking device on our cell phones. They can brand us. They can force us to wear a yellow star. They can force us to wear a pink wristband, et cetera, et cetera. And all of these tracking devices are sent to the health department. You'll hear that over and over again with this tyranny. The health department becomes the new Gestapo. The health department becomes the new Stasi. Stasi with Russia, Gestapo with Germany. In China, it's probably called something else. But in America, we are calling it the health department. Okay. So let's look at some of these states. Oh yeah, this is our YouTube channel. This is a video, an update I did of the Civil War, which always has to do with secessions. There's always secessions that accompany civil wars. We're already seeing that in Virginia. But look at this video, and we're going to listen to a bit of this. This is the state of Rhode Island, and yes, Rhode Island and New York, but the governor, Raimondo, expands plate and home checks to all out-of-staters, takes jab at Governor Cuomo. And this is March 29th, 2020, this article, and there's a blurb here. But Governor Gina has explained the check of license plates. It's harmless. It's just harmless. And home checks, which is harmless. It's okay. It's okay. This is how we boil the frog slowly. So it's okay to home check, from just New Yorkers to all out-of-staters. And by the way, this is being more successful because there are snitches. Look at the first 2 videos I did on this. Snitches. Neighbors are snitching on other neighbors. Neighbors are snitching on each other. People are snitching on people in their community. Snitching. By the way, when snitches are caught, things don't go too well for them. And that's a promise historically with snitches, when you snitch on your neighbor. So Gina, the governor, signed an executive order Saturday that expanded the policy. Now, by the way, executive orders do not supersede constitutions, civil rights, or the Bill of Rights. So they can write all the executive orders they want to, because the citizens run things, and these governors are the servants of the people. But let's listen a little bit to what Gina, the governor, has to say. Let me fix the sound for you.
This is an effort by your government to keep you safe by collecting information. That's all we're doing.
Tonight, Governor Raimondo is clarifying her executive.
So It's harmless. That's all they're trying to do, is just a very harmless thing, is track you. And the health department will do that. See, nothing to worry about. Yeah, right. Be very afraid. Be very, very afraid. Let's take a look at another article from Rhode Island. Here we are. Rhode Island authorities conduct door-to-door check-ins of New Yorkers fleeing coronavirus. Okay, the only way they can, not the only way, but one of the many ways they can do this is snitches. Yes, your neighbors snitching on you. This is what contributes to a civil war, because you know who your enemy is. It could be your neighbor, the snitch. Rhode Island police and members of the Rhode Island National Guard went door to door over the weekend to inform New Yorkers who fled the state to escape the outbreak that they must self-quarantine for 14 days as the state and nation as a whole continues in its efforts to slow the spread of the Wuhan virus. Oh, yeah, there was a part here I wanted to show you. But if you read through the whole article, that is some ways that these National Guards discover that there is a New Yorker in the house next door in Rhode Island who is from New York. His neighbors are snitching, so we're not doing each other any favors. Let me show you an article, research the law, the legal aspect of this, researched by Mr. Armstrong. Is the lockdown a violation of the Constitution? Well, yes, it is, actually. But he goes through many, many legal case studies going back many years, well, back to the early 1900s, 1905. And let's read just some of the summary cases here. Some courts have indeed struck down quarantine orders as well, however, when they were found to be arbitrary and unreasonable in relation to their goal of protecting the public health. In Juho versus Williamson, and there's the case number there, the court found that sealing off an entire section of San Francisco to prevent the spread of the bubonic plague was, quote, unreasonable, unjust, and oppressive, unquote. With a code. Such an overboard order, the court declared, was, quote, not in harmony with the declared purpose, quote, unquote, of preventing the spread of the disease, with the code. In another case, the court also found the order was beyond the power of government and was thus of similar concern in Re Smith, with the case number there. All that stuff. Now, this is from 1895. Now, you see, this was not when these planets, Saturn and Pluto, were together in the sky in the sign Capricorn, telling us that it's time for another civil war, because tyranny had not evolved to that point yet in 1895. We were still a young country. We hadn't reached that phase yet. Russia's already been through it, and other countries have already been through it. So there, the New York Court of Appeals rejected the blanket quarantine of individuals who refused vaccination when there was no reason to believe they had been infected or were exposed to that disease. Building on the legal principles, it can be reasonably argued that the initial decision to quarantine the entire society or to even demand worldwide vaccination, a la Bill Gates, has been demanding is beyond the power of government. This clearly bears no real or substantial relation to the protection of public health, and it is obviously arbitrary and oppressive, which is the sign of a tyrannical government and is the hallmarks, the red flags that a civil war is just down the road. At a minimum, a complete quarantine of society shutting down all commerce is arbitrary and oppressive. There is not even clear and convincing evidence, now that's a technical legal term, there's not even clear and convincing evidence that a woman simply taking her 2 young children to play on swings threatened either society or the lives of her children. So the cops were way too enthusiastic. We'll get to that one in the next video. In Idaho, there were 1,800 cases in total with only 51 deaths. The total population of Idaho is 1.7 million in 2019. Locking down the entire state for such a tiny fraction of the population testing positive was a violation of this woman's civil rights, actionable under 42 U.S.A. Section 1983. We'll get to that one with the next video. So, this is clear precedence that tyrannical governments in America are overstepping their bounds. We can't help the people in China or other countries, but we have the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and civil rights, and we'll see how that works out for us. Only if us citizens step forward and claim our rights, because tyrants don't just give those to us willingly. Do they? No, I guess not. Okay, stay tuned for the fourth and last video to show you evidence that we are well on our way for a second American Civil War, and we'll see how it manifests. Thank you. This is JJ from Paranormal Talks, and we'll be talking to you later. Bye.